Hey guys, this is Tina B.
And Charmaine G.
We're here to talk about the messiness of life. It's ugly.
And it's raw.
It's real.
And it's a freaking game.
It's whack-a-mole.
Whack-a-mole!
Whack-a-mole.
Whack-a-mole!
Whack-a-mole.
Whack-a-mole!
This is us.
And our gift to you.
Hello. Oh, my word. Hello and welcome to Whack-a-Mole. Welcome, wackos.
Whack off, whackers!
Oh, my gosh. Charmaine is full of piss and vinegar today.
So here's the thing. Like, you can take it like you want it. Like, I thought that was genuine. Here's the thing. I love our wackos. Last week, a huge spike.
Yeah.
A huge spike of they're cool happened. They're way cool. What makes it so cool from the week before till now? Like, what do you think?
Because I think we dropped a guard at some. I think if one of us is guarded about something, but we're wanting to talk publicly about things in this platform, on this forum.
Yeah.
But if one of us is guarded, it just takes the whole ship down.
Yeah.
You know, maybe that's a strong metaphor, but I think it's impaling.
Yeah, you feel like you're tiptoeing because you don't want to, like, you don't know all your audiences out there. You don't want to offend, so you limit who you really are, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
But this, I really believe, and you would, I'm sure, concur with this, that the reason we wanted to do this was exactly that. We wanted to be able to talk freely about our experiences and our differences and this shit show and the suffering and the good stuff and the bad stuff and not be guarded about it.
Yeah. I mean, for me,
that's
the
kind
whole
of the
purpose was to not feel alone, try to understand what life's about and what the hell's happening. Through every one of our days, they change so often. Life happens. And to not feel alone and not to let other people feel alone. Even if it's like a story we're sharing or our opinion or get this shit. What do I do with this? Okay, so I'm just going to do a prelude before we get raw and dog on this. I'm not going to lie to you, audience. I have never cut... Okay, I want to say the F word so bad right now. It's such a temptation. Here's the thing. For like 11 years, I have to admit to you, I was in a box and I never really, I limited expressing my emotions through cuss words. And it was out of respect for others. And I am more intelligent and I am not ignorant with the use of words. I could select so many words in the English language, maybe even foreign languages. To tell you the truth, I totally could cuss you out in Spanish too. The thing is that I was acting on emotions last week. I would love for somebody to count how many times I dropped the F-bomb. A lot. Is that what spiked our freaking rating?
The F-bomb?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's what spiked it, but I think that we were willing to talk about politics, something that we were feeling a lot, that the whole country is feeling passionate about even still. That, and then just being vulnerable and letting people know that you're not perfect and we're not perfect. For me, I don't think swearing, the F-bomb it's a strong word.
Yeah,
for sure.
I'm going to start using bloody.
And there's,
because that's the F-bomb in English.
And there's,
oh, you bloody bastards.
Sean just brought a bell in here and I'm scared.
Is that the F bell? Like every time we say that.
I love
it. Okay.
So I think when I use the F word, it's like I love vocabulary and I love words. I love the dictionary.
You're very smart.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I love the art of words. I like stringing them together, all of that. Part of it is I want to say my heritage. You know, growing up back east in an Italian family, the F-bomb was, I mean, it's far more prevalent now than it was like in the 70s.
Sure.
But we're loud and like, rah, kind of people. And all that.
Yeah.
And I know that if I use the F-bomb in a certain situation, it's like a punctuation for me.
For sure.
It's
not a comma. It's not a period.
But if I say, you know what the I mean, that gets somebody's attention.
Yes.
That means, oh, she's serious.
It's an expression.
Yeah. It's like And you can use it in all kinds of different ways.
But you can't use it in all different kinds of ways.
Well, it does discount one when it's overused. I will say that. And I know when, I feel like often I know when that's happening to me, when I've said it way too many times, because it loses its punctuation.
Yeah,
it loses
like,
its power.
I love you.
Yeah.
And you're like, guess what? I love you fucking too.
And whoa!
I knew it was going to happen. Sorry, Mom. So the reason why I bring this up, Tina, is because I was beside myself last week.
She was beside me. Saying the F word like a lot.
I'm not going to lie to you. Before I even said it, they could feel what I was like vibing.
Yeah.
I came in and Tina's eyes was like, oh, hey, you good? You good? Yeah, you? What? And moving on, I was topped over. My life was piling and piling and piling and piling. Personal work. And then all of a sudden, all of this refinery or feeling that I had to present myself in a certain way, like it came down to a head of I am human and I'm going to react.
How freeing is that?
Oh my gosh, I'm not going to lie to you. It was so freeing. I went home and I wanted to carry that out. I have to admit though, that's not exactly who I am, so I can't maintain that image. It's not about an image for me because the next day life was different. And it got better and it improved in some of those situations. Sometimes in some it hasn't. Mm-hmm. But I managed my emotions better. I'm communicating clearly. I shut down. Mm-hmm. And all inhibitions, all thoughts were about my emotions. And I'm not going to lie to you. It may happen again. Because I am just the same as anybody else. I am.
There's nothing wrong with that, though. And that's a perfect segue into what we're going to talk about today.
Oh, I'm so excited.
We're going to talk about finding your voice. And sometimes we're just chugging along connected, you and I, even if we haven't made a connection. Because when I brought that up, we started talking about last week's episode, why the spike, why the all the attention, why the F-bomb, why did you have that mood, what was going on? And it was really about you finding your voice. Am I right?
True. So true. Now,
so you found it, but that doesn't mean, I heard you say, I'm going right into like therapist mode, like my junior therapist.
Simian.
I'm not qualified. I'm just making an observation that it sounded like, totally lost my train of thought. It sounded like you felt bad about like losing your shit, like you just said, and it might happen again. And you don't have to, when you lose your shit, it doesn't mean that you're just lost in shit forever. It just means this is where it's at right now.
Yeah.
We talked about some important stuff last week, and you had passion about it.
I did.
So
I did because I was fed up. I mean, not only about like how to manage like my kids and what they're experiencing and the restrictions, and then all of a sudden, I mean, that's just one little pebble in someone's life, and it affects it all.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah.
I have fears everywhere. My thing is why I kind of regretted, and I came to you today going, I wish that I could have done that better. I'm now looking at it as, in a sense, to where it's a vulnerable. I put myself in a vulnerable position to hear feedback of you're better than that, and judgment and all those things.
I hate that phrase, by the way. You're better than that. I don't. I
heard it like all the next day. You're better than that.
I don't like that phrase. I don't. And whoever said it to you to say that to you? I don't know who it was, but when I hear it, I'm just like, I know my worth.
Yeah.
I know my worth, and I kind of know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
You know, maybe in my 20s I didn't. I mean, I was falling flat on my face daily in my 20s, making an ass out of myself, you know, trial and error. Okay, try this. Okay, probably won't do that again. You know, that kind of thing.
Now I have a baby. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, right? Well, but and even that changes things. You know, you get a promotion at work, you go into a different, you know, and when I moved from the basement, doing the alcohol inventory at the country club, and I moved into that office that overlooked the 14th hole.
Big change.
Oh my gosh. But I wasn't a different person.
Yeah. I like that.
I was still, I was still
you had those
from
lived
Jersey,
experience
and
that
I was
help you.
still a single mom, and I was still somebody who, would drink a cup of coffee at 9:00 at night and fall right to sleep. I mean, that's who I was at that time. That's exactly who I was. And just because I moved into the office up there didn't make me change. It screwed with my head a lot. And I think other people's expectations of what I should be at that point changed too.
Yeah.
And that's way too much pressure.
It's
all the other people's eyes. You asked me to do a job, I'm doing the job.
Yeah.
Now, I don't want to hear you talking about me cutting my hair. I don't want you telling me that you think I should wear more makeup. I don't want to, I'm clean. I get my job done. But there was an expectation that came with that job.
And standards to uphold. I get that. And I value
it's
that.
Bullshit.
I
played for a while, but
I'm going to be devil's
not anymore.
advocate on that. So the thing is that...
What did you just say? The devil's what?
Advocate.
Oh, I thought you said devil's gambit.
A gambit? I'm going to be the devil's bitch on this one. So here's the thing, Tina. I do hold myself to a standard. And the reason is because out of respect for myself. One of the biggest things that I pulled out of the last week's version of myself is that I am human. I limit myself on being vulnerable. And that's what I think everybody really does. And that's how it's hard to find your voice because of fear. Fear that you're going to get rejected, fear that you're going to offend someone, fear that you may misrepresent yourself, fear. I mean, like all these issues of why don't we have a voice? Like, have you ever thought about that?
I have thought about that because at my age, I think about things like that. I think about how I may do something and go, I know that 10, 20 years ago, I probably would not have done that. I would have kept my mouth shut. I would have sat down. I would have whatever the action was. I think about it a lot because I have a lot less fear. And yes, all of this is fear-based. All of this shit is fear-based because maybe one person would, okay, let me give you an example.
Ooh, I love these.
Last night, I belong to this group on Facebook called It's an Italian Thing. There's a couple of Italian groups and they like share recipes and talk about like growing up Italian. And it's a Facebook group.
That's cool. Is
So,
Snooki on that? And
when
stuff
I-
like that?
no.
Okay, cool.
No, but last night I posted a question. When I was young, growing up in the Bronx, I came from an Italian family, okay? My mom and my family used to put cinnamon in the ricotta cheese
Wow.
for lasagna. That's the way I grew up eating it, okay? I get that maybe to somebody else it doesn't sound that appetizing,
match,
but
yeah.
it that's the way we grew up eating it. I had not had regular lasagna without that till I was probably 12 or so. Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's
That's like
very
peanut butter and chili.
I know. It's good though.
I believe
So
you.
I posed the question, has anybody heard of putting cinnamon in the ricotta for lasagna? That was exactly the
Yeah.
question.
You want to know if you're on an island or not. Yeah. What'd you get? What'd you get?
First of all, if I pull it up right now, they're still typing.
Shut the heck up.
2,100 comments.
You're so cool. What the heck?
No, I'm not.
Yeah,
if
you
I
are.
could channel that into what we're doing here, then yes, I would be very cool.
Steer your Italian this way.
2.1K comments and counting, and almost 493 when I just looked reactions
Wait a minute.
to this one fucking question.
I love it.
To this one question. And I got to tell you, the reason I brought this whole story up is because I never post in that group. Because one
was your
other
first
time I
post?
posted in that group,
You got shut
I
down.
got, please, people are mean. Italian people are mean. So I guess it's an Italian thing to be an asshole on Facebook. So, okay, now you know me, right? I read like 4 or 5 that were just not nice comments. Like it's a yes or no
So
question.
you deleted your post?
No, I said,
good
you
for
fucking bitch to this lady. And they kicked me off Facebook, so I haven't been able to post since last night. So so if you want to call that finding your voice, I've really thought about this today because I keep going on Facebook to try to like something I can't even respond to any of these people. I can't at all because every time I do it, they say, we shut your ass down. You are not allowed to post on Facebook. I'm not allowed to like anything. I'm in Facebook jail. Okay.
Wait.
So
Did they put cinnamon in the regatta?
It's a fucking simple question. I mean, these people.
I'm actually going to pee my pants on air.
These people are passionate about their ricotta cheese. They probably talk about the way I say it right now because if you're really authentic, it's like ricotta,
Okay.
and not ricotta because that's very American. So I found my voice. I'm like, I'm going to ask this question, man. I was really like, it took a minute for me to move past the fear and be vulnerable in front of these. Well, now we know more than 2,000 people that are in this group, right? And I do that, and they're just slinging mud at me, man. And I'm too sensitive with shit like that.
Yeah.
And I think I'm a little old school, too, in that I'm a shit talker. Nobody who knows me listening to this is going to be like.
But you're a truth sayer. I'm not going to say
But
shit
I am a
talker.
truth.
You're a truth
I
sayer.
am, and I have a lot of
You say it like
compassion
it
for people
is.
too.
Yeah.
I do have a lot of compassion for people.
And you deliver it well. I'm not going to say that
Well,
you
thank
pull
you.
punches and you go full blood Italian and what you're
No,
representing.
but I would never say some of the shit they're saying.
Well, because they're behind the screen. They're never going to come to
that's
light.
so cowardly, for one. And two, it was just so amazing to me that I was thinking this little phrase in this little group got this much attention. Okay. So I found my voice. I did that. There are different places where you find your voice too. There are, in thinking about this today, you have a voice in your relationship. You have a voice at work.
Correct.
You
Different
have
audience.
Yes, you have a voice socially with your
True.
peers. On social media, you have a voice. So how do we...
Family.
Oh my gosh, your
Did
voice in
somebody
the
fart?
family. I did...
I'm sorry.
Not me. Charmaine said the F word. You need to tap that twice. Okay, so...
I have to, really quick though, you had said the word sensitive.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sensitive to that when people's feedback. You're
Yeah.
sensitive to that. That right there is the number one. I looked this up and I completely agree with this. We limit ourselves because we're insecure. You're sensitive. You're insecure with making comments because of rejection or any feedback that could be negative because you're already putting yourself out there in a vulnerable position. Sensitive limits ourselves.
But you know
thanks,
what's
Sean.
funny is that your mind will hijack you. It just hijacks you.
Totally.
It does me. And I don't even really, I have to really sit back and sort things out and figure it out. Well, that's where addiction comes in because I don't always want to do that either.
I'm a hider. I avoid.
I'll just do a shot and it's over,
I built my
There's
confidence.
no need to figure it out ever again.
Confidence. Okay, we're going
But
back.
now,
Remember that word.
now different things motivate me, obviously, at my age than what motivated me 20 years ago. I often didn't speak up because I was scared of not being liked. Like when I funnel everything out and, you have all these different levels. Well, I was afraid you would say this. Okay, well, what does that mean? Well, I was afraid that maybe you wouldn't want to be around me anymore. Okay, one more level. Well, I'm afraid that you won't like me, bottom line. Okay, it's always fear of something. And it's usually fear of other people's eyes, right?
Because you want to belong. You want them to like you.
And when you're young, when I was young, belonging was being a part of a tribe, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Was
Even the
very
bottom
important.
feeders, yeah.
Very important.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to get to in middle school and high school. Those years are just devastating.
Oh my God.
So you snuff out your voice. At least I did.
And you do things that you would probably know that it's not the right thing to do just for acceptance.
Yeah.
And then that kind of deteriorates the self-worth thing too. Because
Yeah.
you're like, oh shit, I did that too. And guilt and shame just piles on. It all centers around your self-worth. Don't you think? Your security of yourself.
Yes.
Your fear and the little man, he, she in your head. I don't know. Mine's bisexual, but anyway. Sean's eyes.
And that's our next episode.
Sean perked up on that.
Wow.
That is freaking funny. So I want to say, though, back to your people that we serve, and who are around, family, work voice, things like that. I have to say to you, this topic was asked at the very beginning of launching the podcast. Mm-hmm. Hey, I really like your podcast. Yeah. I'm really thinking like it would be a good topic to talk about finding your voice. I'm like, interesting. Tell me more. Why do you? She goes, because she. Mm-hmm. And I know I know you're listening, Colette. Mm-hmm. Because having that confidence to speak your voice, maybe even stand up for yourself in certain situations, what that does for you. Why do we do that? Why is it important to have a voice?
If you're asking me, as you're talking, I'm thinking about, I don't want to blame my parents for everything, but it's really all their fault. No. I'm just saying that I'm sure that my kids probably, everything's my fault. And I'm all right. I signed on for that.
Yeah.
I did. I signed that.
I'm not going to give my kids that
whatever.
freaking excuse. Hell no.
So, but when I look back, I remember in my generation, okay, and not just my parents, everybody's parents probably, or many parents, my voice was being squashed, like muffled. Children to be seen, not heard, be quiet, get away from the table, let your mother eat, don't talk to her, you're just constantly being bullied as I look at it now.
No, I agree.
I
agree. Don't be selective with your words. You're absolutely correct.
So when you do that to kids and you stifle them and shut them down, it may not take their voice away completely, but it muffles it to the point that they take that into school. They take that into all of their social interactions.
They take their voice
clubs,
somewhere else.
The sandbox. Exactly. And then without that, if I'm stifling Samantha's voice all the time, which I kind of want to, like if I want to just put a sock in it, I'm letting her know how disinterested I am in what she has to say. Mm-hmm. And I'm also passively aggressively letting her know that only my voice counts and not hers. Yeah. And that's a bunch of bullshit when you think about it. It's subliminal. We do that. We get hijacked. Parenting will hijack us that way too.
Is that not true? What I know I do to my kids, when I can see it in their countenance, when I may not have the time or the patience to listen to the repetitive, the same record player, the same thing, that they already feel that insecurity. It's almost like I think we're a little bit born with like trying to find our own worth because we don't believe in ourselves all the way. I just sealed the deal. I sealed that mother deal. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
Come on, say it.
Sorry. No, fuck no.
Charmaine's now going to be sparing with her F words.
Sean, you're sleeping over there. Ding.
Come on, man.
You said I did?
Yeah, I said mother, and then I said, oh, fuck no.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, this is struggling.
So you're 100% correct. So if it starts with us when we're little, that shit gets muffled and whatever, then you kind of go out into the world and try to make a name for yourself and have a voice for yourself. It's difficult. So with my daughters, I probably will get I don't care. My parenting is not always, super in line with
it's not cookie cutter.
No,
for sure.
It's not. And I'll tell you why. Well, first of all, I have more compassion and I've set out to be a different kind of parent. So with that being said, I do things that are less conventional. I like to take a break and come back. I like to leave you in suspense. And we'll be back.
All right.
Join us for the
viewers.
next half. We're on a roll.
Woo! Hear our voice.
This is Whack-A-Mole with Tina B and Charmaine G. Raw discussion about the messiness of life. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with more Whack-A-Mole. We welcome you back to Whack-A-Mole. Raw discussions about the messiness of life. Now, here are your hosts, Tina B and Charmaine G.
Hello, we're back. Okay, so we were talking about where does this come from? Was that the question that you posed? Why do we need a voice?
Yeah. Why do we need a voice? What's important for us to find our voice? I mean, because you can find it as a youth if you have good parents that cultivate that and nurture that, or you actually may be snuffed your entire life and told to be quiet. When's your turn? You don't know when your turn is, and so you literally don't have evolution until you're a mature adult. And is that a top off kind of a moment like I had last week, to where you just bleh, and
regurgitate everything?
And then you're like, oh shoot, I'm regretting all of that, being myself and finding my voice and all those things, to where then you're having kind of a lived experience that you don't ever want to visit again.
Well, I mean, I think I can only draw on my own experience and what I observe of the young women in my life. Okay, I have a 22-year-old and a 15-year-old, and I bring my daughters into it. Well, because they're wonderful people, but they're also women that I'm observing up close. So there are times where Samantha will say to me, just the other morning we got in the car and she was like, I was like, you're not being very nice. Well, you're not being very nice. Like, it was one of those. It was a, you shut up. No, you shut up kind of a thing. Oh. Yeah, it was one of those where we went back. See, and I will pull that mom card out and she'll call me out on it sometimes. Ooh. Oh, so because you're a mom, you can be rude and I can't. She's got a point.
True.
Now, how I handle that from that point on, determines a dynamic for sure. Like, if I just said, oh, you're right, okay, just treat me like an asshole and it's no big deal. Yeah. It's not going to go down like that. It will never go down like that.
I tell you,
it's just the way. So I listen to these girls and I listen to, there's frustration behind not being able to have a voice. And I can recognize that because I recognize it in myself. Mm-hmm. So if I have it's like somebody standing in front of you when you're ready to leave the room, but they're blocking the doorway. And every time you try to get around them, and they won't let you through.
And so what do you do?
Exactly. You're like, can you please let me out? I'm going to be nice 3 times. And then after that, I'm probably going to come at you like a fucking Wolverine.
Right.
You know?
Punch the taint and move out of my way.
Exactly. So there's some frustration with that. I think it's very important that we encourage our children to have a voice. Then there's, I look back and I go, okay, well then there's there's also a level of brattiness that kids will get where you're just like, shut that shit down. You just go to the grocery store because you'll see that shit.
That's a teaching opportunity too. I mean, because on your notes, it says when to listen too, because it's a fine line of when to be open and when to give. Because I believe that I can be influenced by my kids. For example, my son, he's in a growing alpha stage, 11 years old. Mm-hmm. Okay. That's crucial for an 11-year-old boy. And his kids, they're cussing, they're doing all these things. And I want to sit there and go, hey, do you kiss your mom with that mouth? Listen to me on air. Okay. So I can be contradicting that. Mm-hmm. How am I going to teach him?
This whole do as I say, not as I do business.
Is that not the truth?
Yeah.
So I can be very influential of how I choose to express myself. Now we haven't advised the adult content stuff for a while. We should, adult content is
We're
happening.
Adults having adult conversations.
Yeah. So my thing is that my son looks at me so sweetly and innocent after probably having, hours on the PlayStation of cussing and he looks at me and says, it hurts my feelings when you cuss, Mom. And I believed him. And I thought, I could do better. I'm not perfect. And my actions aren't perfect. But I influenced my son, very much so. So when do I listen? I listen to a child. I listen to my employers. I listen because it is valuable feedback, even when you're expressing your opinion, to be also on the receiving end of it too.
Listening is hard for me. I mean, it really is. If I'm being honest, which I mean, I have to be, it's hard.
It really is. I've experienced this with you, Tina B, is that you've expressed, out of reaction, out of emotion. And I said, well, what about this? Or have you looked at it this way? And like you've been very receptive of it. But then I've also been taught by you too. So I think the relationship's there. Like we've built that. It's not like something that you do overnight. So you're very influential to me.
Aw.
You really are. One of the things
Look for me to manipulate that situation to its fullest.
I'm game.
Stay tuned.
I'm not like I've been warned.
I'm only kidding.
I've been warned. Why? Is because I've seen you stand up for yourself and your values and respect. Even if it's things that you're trying to learn, you're asking questions. Is that expressing your voice? It's not just about opinions. It's like being open-minded and saying, help me understand why that's happening. Or why did you say that to me? I'm not okay with that.
That goes back to our boundaries conversation, remember? Making those boundaries, setting the boundaries. You take a risk, man. It's a huge risk. If you make a boundary with a super sensitive person, or if they're feeling just super sensitive in that moment, and depending on the content and whatever,
or they think
case
they're
by case.
authority over you.
Yeah, and then you make the boundary, and then it's a huge risk because you don't know what's going to come slinging back at you, man. It's like...
did you just put a target on my back?
It's like I think about the ape shitting in his hand and throwing it at the zoo, throwing it at the window. And
my ape ate the shit and then threw it up and then ate the threw up. I watched it for like 45 minutes at the Denver Zoo.
Really went off topic right there, but... It's disgusting.
Yeah.
But I think about that. If you sling something, you have to... And my husband taught me this, and this is like a biblical reference. When you make a boundary with somebody or you are disciplining your kids, you have to show an increase of love after that. So I try to keep that in mind in many situations. If I can distinctly remember finding my voice was during a time that it was when I got sober. Excuse me, I have a frog in my throat.
I see it.
And I was able to start, I found my tribe with that. And in that tribe, I found just other people trying to do the same thing I was trying to do, my sober friends. All people just in their early 30s, just, working on a career, trying to stay sober, getting jacked on coffee till 2 a.m. I've told you that before, So I found a tribe where I knew my voice was safe. For a long time, I had placed myself in situations and in relationships where if I voiced my opinion, no pun intended, it may have been squashed down. So what happens when somebody does that? You kind of back off and you go, okay, I'm a big fat dummy.
You're not going to do it again.
Now I've learned to steer more clear of those people. I'm baffled by those people. I don't know how to communicate with them, so I just sort of steer clear away from them. Go right ahead.
I have that experience quite often in my job. As to where I express knowledge. It's not even just my opinion. Sometimes I express facts. And there's a lot of voices at the table. And there's a lot of influential people at the table to where you can get drowned out. So if I feel like it's very important and it can give like solid direction on something, I have to muster the courage up again and again and again and say, this I know. And here's why. It's not just about like the first initial.
Oh, absolutely.
It's the why. So I think when we have the audience, be it work, peers, friends, lovers, children, all of the things that we're involved in our entire lives, is the why is so important when you're voicing your opinion. Like, hear me, and this is why.
And back to our kids, because now I have 2 children. One is 22. She's an adult.
Yeah.
I don't talk to her like she's a freaking kid anymore. And she doesn't talk to me like I'm the mom.
And that's what you're doing your job.
Yeah.
You're creating another adult. You're creating another person.
Yes. So to have that rapport throughout, there has to be that give and take.
Yep.
So from I would not have started a podcast if I love talking into the microphone. I like you and I having a conversation, but not really anybody else has given me too much feedback. So, I mean, they might be going, you're an idiot. And
don't
but
make
I can't
those
hear
comments because she's sensitive, guys.
But I mean, and then if you think I'm an idiot, then change the station or whatever, the channel or whatever. You don't have to listen. I got off track there. I know that I drew people into my life as an adult because I was still trying to, I'm not going to articulate this very well. When I was talking a couple of episodes about being in that dysfunctional relationship, and if I said, I'm so stupid, there's the voice in your head that says that. Being in a relationship, that voice was out loud. He would just agree with me. Yes, you are.
Yeah.
And here's all the reasons
a lack of confidence over and over
and so
over again.
you don't have a voice at that point. Then you're letting somebody else speak for you. So having learned that, I would prefer to pass along to my children, to these beautiful humans I've been given the privilege to influence, that you do have a voice and it does matter. And it doesn't matter if what you're saying doesn't count for somebody else. And we can't be accountable for somebody else's feelings being triggered by the things that we're saying. We can be sensitive to that. But for me and my personality, I can go completely off the board with that and become all about not hurting swallowing somebody else's fear and living in their fear,
not being offensive,
and that's you don't have a voice. You've lost your voice when you're influenced by somebody else's fear.
Yeah, and a lot of it is that we're trying to accommodate other people when we may not have a lack of confidence. I wanted to share a story with you that just totally resonates with it has to come from you. Comment. Other the dysfunctional relationships can smother your parenting, your history of parents can smother you as a person. It has to come from you. The voice does, and it has to have a reason. Okay. Like if you don't have the why behind you having a voice, like because I need to have results, I need to have to be heard, that sense of awareness and confidence in yourself has to come from you. So I was out of town this last weekend and I wanted my nails were horrible.
Your hooves.
Seriously, they hurt, man. I was letting them get too long, and it's not like I pamper myself. But I said, I want a pedicure. What do you want to do? I want a pedicure. I want you to go with me. Yeah. So that's not my thing. Yeah, I get that's not your thing because you're a manly man and you're freaking hot, man. And here's the thing, though. Why isn't it your thing? Because people are going to think less of you. So you got my little chirping voice, tearing away that, you can do this. I want you to do this with me. The selling the idea.
Did you want him to have a pedicure?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'll sit there
Not
with
just
you.
sit there reading Cosmo.
Because I've had the experience and he hasn't. And so I was saying, it'll be one of those, I promise you, it'll be one of those that you look back and go, why didn't I do this sooner? Because in my mind, I've done that. So why isn't anybody else going to do that? Because I've done that, right? Nope. So I'm trying to build his confidence of convincing him to get a pedicure. And he did. He pulled the trigger and he was like, yeah, why not? What's it going to hurt? Nobody's really going to see me and make fun of me.
Could you imagine if 4 of his buddies walked in there with their wives or something?
He literally was about, he's a manly man, right? He's a manly man.
Sure, they all are.
Please don't see me are you manly? I totally think you're a manly man. with with this story, I'm going to tell you what I watched in the experience of he has 2 ingrown toenails because
Let me close my eyes and get a visual.
Okay, cool.
Go. Action.
Everybody visual this. So I'm watching this. I'm so excited because my manly man went all a little bit down and wanted to appease me and please me. And he's sitting in the chair and we're strangers. Nobody's never going to see us again. So be free is what I'm thinking. Like, lay it all out there on the table. He had sheer like tense and fear in his eyes watching this person massage his feet, and I'm reassuring him the whole time. Does this feel good? Here, like here's a massage chair.
But he's got a scowl the whole time.
Well, like this fear,
Deep thought.
like I'm not comfortable. I am so uncomfortable right now, right? And he was doing it to please me. And I'm wanting him to have that joy of like, I do not regret this in any way. My feet feel like pillows and I pleased my woman and she's right. I wanted to be right.
Of course.
So I'm sitting there watching this scowl, manly man look of, I am doing this for everybody except for myself, right? And I picked up on that pretty quick of, I'm not comfortable. I'm like, hey, you okay? You good? Hey, what do you think? That's fun, huh? You know, my little like reassurance talk. And it's not hitting the charts. I can just see it happening. And all of a sudden I'm like, hey, just to let you know, he's got a couple of hangnails that are deep and they need to be removed by a doctor, right? And you could tell she was like a Dr. Pimple Popper. Like she wanted to get at those hangnails and cut that
They
shit
want to do
out.
that. You come to me.
Yeah. She's like, no, me like it. I want it.
You come to me. I do that for you.
And I'm looking at him going, are you going to tell her? Are you going to tell her, like, don't, that hurts? Or are you going to say something? And he was just like not even regarding that I was saying stuff because he was just dead focused on her digging that tool in his hangnail over and over and over again. I'm all like, yeah, say something. Like, are you going to say something? Like, tell her. So I started teaching him how to talk. Like, so, okay. tell her it hurts. Tell her, because I could see that he did not want this to happen, and he was going to let it happen. He was going to let,
because he lost his voice.
He didn't have one over the smallest thing, and put himself in the most uncomfortable position that he could ever put himself in, and watching him let her hurt him over and over again. And I said, tell her that you want to go to a doctor. So he didn't. For like 20 minutes, I watched her grind it. And I'm like, hey, so is it bad? Like, what do you see there? Maybe a doctor should do that. So I started giving him like practice on what it looks like in front of him.
A voice.
Yeah. Well, this is what it looks like, and you're gonna regret this if you don't do it. And so I'm like, tell her over and over and over again. Tell her what? Say something. Like, you don't want this. Say something over a hangnail that he should get done. And he said many times, "Ow, ow." It hurts. That's not enough voice, right? So I look at him and he finally said, like, I don't know how proud I could say that I really was when I heard him say, yeah, so I'm going to let a doctor do that. Really soft and gentle.
It's respectable too.
Yeah.
I mean, when we know what it feels like to have somebody just be a doormat for somebody to wipe their dirty ass feet on, and then we know what it feels like, and then when we see that in somebody else,
and he could have
we
taken
know what
care
that
of
feels
that.
like, and it's hard to respect somebody that doesn't have a voice. It's hard to. That's too harsh. I didn't mean it like that.
That is
it's hard.
so true. Is that not true?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sean knows.
Okay. I just didn't want to sound harsh, and I wasn't saying anything about.
You become a doormat.
You do. And it's not respectable.
No.
So when you can't respect somebody, what happens to the relationship? See, Greg would never. I've offered
dog by you going, hey, don't let them disrespect you. You're not a doormat.
Yeah.
Say something. You don't want it. Say something.
And then what comes after that? What's the emotion? Then comes anger, because you've betrayed yourself, which we've also talked about on this podcast. And so how do you defend that?
Steam stays where it is, and maybe even lowers,
Yes.
and the cycle continues.
Yes.
I give you this example. this is so good for me. I give you this example because this was about a hangnail. Okay.
Ingrown.
An ingrown. Yeah, thank you. An ingrown nail. Imagine on a higher caliber of fathering, being present at the table with decision making. I mean, you're a doormat. No one's going to respect you, right? This ingrown nail in scenario, he said it. And I was like, good for you, babe. Good for you, babe. And then she kept digging. And then I thought, hey, he told you what he wanted. And he said it. He said something. And you could see that, like, he just went right back into that recluse kind of a thing. And I said, say it again. She didn't hear you. She heard him. Say it again. She didn't hear you. So you do need people in your life.
Who is this woman?
Her name was Tway. She actually was really cool. But in all actuality, she wanted to freaking dig that ingrown toenail. She knew she could do it. Yeah. She knew that, she said, you do it, doctor. The doctor cut all this out for you. I do it for you right now. Tried to sell him on the idea again. And I said, say it again, Jer. Oh, no name dropping. Say it again. Say it again. Tell her what you want. Tell her what, and he did. And I thought, and she backed down. And I thought, how did that feel? Because he has another experience that is just hard to watch.
Yeah.
Right? It's hard to sit there and watch because he just doesn't have a voice because he's so accommodating to other people. And he's such a good man that you almost want to say an ingrown toenail versus a fucking bully.
Yeah.
That is so true. It has to come from you, people.
It does. And we have to teach that in the home because our homes are so influential. The people that have been entrusted to us to raise, what an order.
What a big responsibility and a blessing.
It is most of the time. Don't get crazy. I mean, I love my children.
Seriously.
But if we're being honest, Samantha wakes me up.
She's teaching you, man.
She is teaching me. And she likes to wake me up on my days off to ask for trivial stuff. I don't know where that just came. I must have been holding on to that since yesterday.
That's your voice.
Exactly. I have to teach them that. The girls know who they are. I've watched them struggle with not saying something. I've had my kids come to me and go, because I'm like, there's a huge difference.
Hands of that. They separate the hands of that.
But they're not anywhere like. It takes maturity, too. It takes experience. It takes growing up and years to go by. Because I could tell them till I'm blue in the face.
Yeah.
But how do we learn?
Practice.
By experiencing it and going through pain. Pain is the motivator of all.
Yeah.
So I can say this, this, and this. And they're like, oh, I wouldn't. Why would you do that? Oh, my gosh, I wouldn't do that. And someday you will do that. I'm just here to tell you that at some point you're going to make the decision to do that because the decision you're making right now, at some point that has to become more. Yes, it becomes heavy. Like the scales start to, then you start to go, oh, wait a minute. I would rather be happy than this.
And we're supposed to change. We're supposed to grow as people by experience, by time. I asked you the question. Why is it important to find your voice? And related to that ingrown nail, why is it important?
I think that it's important for us to have our own voice, to grow a voice, to nurture a voice, because it's our individualism. It's who we are. It is our right as a human being to have that individuality.
And every time you find your voice, whatever your audience is, work, family, and it's appropriate. It's not like you're bullying. It's not like you have to be heard. It's appropriate. The number one reason why it's so important to find our voice is to build confidence in ourselves.
There's an evolution that takes place during that too. With everything that we've talked about, boundaries, body image, all of this stuff, there's an evolution that takes place. And when you evolve even just the smallest bit, you start to attract different people in your life.
Is that not the truth?
It's so true. And you start to even operate at a different frequency.
So I have to say, this episode is so valuable.
Yeah.
To find your voice. And to be honest with you,
Find
don't be
your
a
voice.
fucking doormat.
Don't be a fucking doormat. We love you guys. I look forward to hearing from you this week.
Happy week. Love you. Bye.
You've been listening to Whack-A-Mole with Tina B and Charmaine G. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Watch us on YouTube and subscribe to us on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Join us next time for, well, whatever may happen with Tina B and Charmaine G on Whack-A-Mole. This has been a production from a podcast studio.